Hello, I am Yash. I welcome you all to School from Home. In today's video, we will be getting guidance about Science 2. Science is a subject, if studied in an effective manner, helps us learn more about ourselves and the world around us. Today, we have with us Mrs. Anagha Joshi ma'am. She has been an engineer by profession, but in 2004 found her calling for teaching. From the past 16 years, she has been teaching students and guiding them for the SSC examinations. Thank you ma'am for being a part of School from Home. I request you to start the guidance lecture.
Hi guys, this video is regarding what you need to study or how you need to study for Science 2. Okay, brief introduction about the pattern of the paper that is expected. You're going to have 4 questions, question 1, 2, 3 and 4. Question 1 is going to be 10 marks, so you are going to have, and that could have a lot of variety. It could have create an analogy, complete the following sentences, match the following, name the following. You could have define a particular thing that is expected. For example, define biotechnology could be one of the questions that's going to be asked. Question 1, as far as I'm concerned, is a little tricky because it's going to get over really fast, but the value attached to that single word or to that single sentence is huge. You have 1 mark for a single word. So most important thing, and where a lot of children tend to lose marks, are these objectives. That's question 1A and B, and it's very difficult to predict what is going to be asked. As far as S2 is concerned, again 10 chapters, a huge portion for you to study, and anything, really anything from these 10 chapters can come in question 1. The way to study science, whether it's Science 1 or whether it's Science 2, is to make sure that you have read the textbook really thoroughly. I would advise you to take the help of other books, of other workbooks or guides, or the 21 likelies that you're going to have, or papers even, a little later. Maybe do it a little later, little beyond the December deadline that you can set for yourself. Before that, make sure that you know each and every word from the textbook, because this question 1 is going to be very critical. It can only be attempted completely and correctly if you're thorough with your textbook. And tell yourself one more thing. Tell yourself that any word, any sentence from any of these 10 chapters can come in the paper. When you're studying science, another thing that you could definitely do is try and predict the questions that are likely to be asked. I lay a lot of importance on creation of your own notes. Okay, when you create your own notes, for example, if you're looking at heredity and evolution, these are the 10 chapters that you have. I'll come to the questions one by one, but I'll just talk to you about the things that are important and intermittently talk to you about the questions. If you're looking at heredity and evolution, and if you're studying that chapter, now that chapter clearly is divided into 2 parts. The initial part is protein synthesis, which involves transcription, translation and translocation, and the later part is about evolution. It's a very descriptive topic. Now, for such descriptive topics, my suggestion is to read from other textbooks as well. Visit websites which give you information about evolution. You may or may not agree about it, that's a different thing. But when knowledge is empowerment, correct? And when you have enough knowledge, you're also going to be able to write these answers well. The point I was trying to make was learn to predict questions. So what question would you set if you were the teacher? What question? And if you have to make sure that none of the students in my class are able to solve this question, what question would you set? Would you set a question like, describe the history of man starting from ancient lemurs to Homo sapiens? That could be a 5-mark question. So try and predict questions as you study a chapter. When you're studying transcription, translation, translocation, you could tell yourself, okay, when I set a question, I'm going to talk about central dogma. I will put that question in question number 1 and ask my students, define central dogma. What is the difference between transcription and translocation? What is the difference between translocation and translation? So start creating questions. I'm okay with, people generally tend to give a lot of importance to answers. but the way to study would be to create questions. And once you're ready with your own set of questions, nothing should surprise you. You will be ready with whatever questions come in your question paper, because you would be doing it a second time once you've already done it in your mind. So 1, make lots of notes, and 2, you start creating your own questions. If you look at question number 2 and question number 3 here, the advantage with science is that there is, you have plenty of time. The 40-mark paper can be written twice over, as far as I'm concerned, in the 2 hours that you have. So how are you going to make your paper different from the person who is ahead of you or who is behind you? A few pointers here. Add lots of diagrams. Okay, when you're writing a question, pick such questions which you can illustrate with diagrams. So if you're talking about life processes 1, why not choose mitosis? Because when you're choosing mitosis, you're going to conclude that particular question with the diagrams of mitosis. Therefore, selection is very important. In question 2 and 3, you have plenty of options. Question 2, you're going to have 7 or 8 questions, and you have to do only 5. Question 3, which are 3-mark questions, out of 8 you have to do any 5. Select the ones that you're good at. Okay, don't select questions which you're going to say, I don't know this answer really well. It would be foolish to select that question. In S2, a word about personal response answers. As a teacher, if I ask a student something, for example, in case of green energy, if I put this kind of a question in my paper, that would you consider hydroelectric power stations eco-friendly or not? Now this can have varied answers. Some will say non-polluting, therefore definitely eco-friendly. The environment, those who are passionate about the environment will say, of course not eco-friendly, because they're going to cause displacement of huge populations. Lots of forest areas will be covered, submerged. So I'm going to say no, they are not eco-friendly. So there can be 2 opinions. The personal opinion, when an examiner asks you, if I am an examiner, I should be giving you full marks for whatever your opinion is. But it may not work like that in the board exam. In the board exam, they might expect an opinion which they conform to, right? So if the government is saying hydroelectric power stations are eco-friendly, you might have to say hydroelectric power stations are eco-friendly. Therefore, I would give last preference to personal response questions, because then it depends on the whim and fancy of the examiner. And this examiner is not sitting in front of you. It's not your school teacher who you can go to and say, ma'am, why have you given this wrong? Right? And therefore, be careful. I would give last preference to personal response questions. S2 as compared to S1 is not a very difficult subject to study. The reason being, these chapters, social health, disaster management, environment management, are 3 chapters which talk about environment. Social health, well, it's going to be all the things that all of you are probably doing, like lots of screen time, no play outside, but the book always tells you the things which you are not supposed to do. So this is an easy chapter. Just write the opposite of what you're doing, right? So this is going to help you to, these personal response questions are always going to be easy. Disaster management, tricky chapter, but I think when you're studying disaster management, imagine an example in front of you. And in the times that we live, we haven't experienced anything like the COVID epidemic that we are seeing. So what was my government's response to this epidemic? What would happen if my house caught fire? What are the steps that I would take? That should help you to learn disaster management. Because if you try to learn it by rote, just learn words, it's a difficult chapter. This chapter, although I'm saying that from the point of view of the exam, it's easy, I think from the point of view of our day-to-day life, I would rate 1, 2, and 3. These 3 chapters extremely important, because if we don't take care of our environment, we won't be standing here, right? So often, as far as academics is concerned, we give very little importance to environment management, social health, and disaster management, because you're going to say these are easy chapters, but important from your day-to-day life. And for disaster management, take a lot of examples. Keep these examples in front of you. These 2 chapters can be done towards the end of the year. I suggest focus on the remaining first and then focus on these 2 chapters. As far as the remaining chapters are concerned, take a look at this. Life Processes 1, Life Processes 2, Green Energy, Animal Classification, Microbiology and Cell Biotechnology. Very, very descriptive chapters. One tool that I use even when I'm teaching is making flashcards. Okay, when I make these flashcards, so these are cards which I make for myself sometimes if I'm preparing a chapter. So for example, if I'm studying cell biotechnology, it's very, very descriptive and lots of play on words. So I'm going to make a flashcard for myself with, I would generally write it with a sketch pen, make a very distinct heading and write little information. For example, if I have a flashcard on biotechnology, and I'm studying biotechnology towards the end, I just want to revise biotechnology, I'm going to say, okay, how do I define biotechnology? In fact, this was a question which was asked in last year's board exam. Define biotechnology. So do I have that written in my flashcard? Yes, it's bringing about artificial genetic changes and hybridization for human welfare. So you could have a flashcard for cell biotechnology, you could have a flashcard of how biotechnology helps in agriculture. As far as Life Processes 1 is concerned, when you talk about the phases of mitosis, for example, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, on your flashcard, on one part of your flashcard, you could have prophase, draw the figure of prophase, and right behind it you could write the steps of prophase, so that whenever you have to revise, you're going to say, okay, what happens in anaphase? In which phase are the chromosomes going to be seen as a bunch of bananas? So these are keywords that come in the text. Make use of flashcards. It has always helped me even when I teach. It will help you when you start to learn. With Life Processes 2, lay a lot of importance on the diagrams. Now, I've often seen in the years that I've taught that diagrams are supremely difficult for boys and much, much easier for the girls. And if that is the case, please practice a lot. Practice is the only way you're going to come close to a figure which looks like what is in the text. Okay? A piece of advice here as far as the diagrams are concerned, stick to the diagrams which have been asked behind the textbook. For example, in case of animal classification, you're not expected to draw the diagram of a cockroach, okay, or a pigeon, but if it's there behind, if there's a question which particularly says draw or sketch a figure of a pigeon, then you have to do it. You have time on your hands, so there is no excuse for not doing enough. Okay, so lay importance on diagrams. So whether it's for Life Processes 1, but particularly for Life Processes 2, because it involves reproduction. Again, when you're studying reproduction, you can divide it into 2 parts, which is going to be create these flowcharts for yourself. So if you're studying reproduction, it should be sexual reproduction, asexual reproduction. When you're talking about asexual reproduction, again, unicellular and multicellular. So create a flowchart. What I'm trying to tell you is create a flowchart. So if I have asexual reproduction, can I divide it into unicellular and multicellular? Okay, once I divide it into unicellular and multicellular, in case of unicellular, I'm going to have fission, and I'm going to have budding, right? In case of multicellular, what are the types that I'm going to have? I'm going to have budding, I'm going to have fragmentation, I'm going to have regeneration, vegetative propagation. So I have my 4 types of multicellular multicellular organisms dividing asexually. In case of fission, again 3 types. It's going to be binary fission, which is going to be along the simple axis, along a particular axis, and multiple fission, right? So end this flowchart that you have with examples. Very, very important to give the right examples or to study the right examples when you're doing S2. The same goes for animal classification. My suggestion is you have the 10 phyla, right? Starting from Porifera to Cnidarians, you're going to have Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, arthropods, annelids, you're going to have mollusks, echinodermatas, hemichordata, and chordata, right? Make 10 columns. If you have 10 phyla, make columns like this, you're going to say, okay, if I'm starting with Porifera, what is the habitat? What is the mode of reproduction? What is the mode of locomotion? Is there something which is special, the oscula? Is there something which is special about these organisms? So make tables. Tables always help to study descriptive topics. The same goes for microbiology. A word of caution about microbiology: it seems difficult at first, and you feel, hey nahi vicharnar, ya table matlab they are not going to ask. Don't have that thought. Everything is asked. Every single difficult table that you think is going to be asked in your school exam or in your board exam, right? I understand that the board exams are important, but you don't want to be losing marks even in your school exams. Okay, so microbiology is going to need time. One thought which would help you to study microbiology: tell yourself, I'm just going to learn up everything. S2 is a subject which needs a lot of memorizing. So again, give yourself that time. Okay, give your 10 chapters, a chapter a week, 10 weeks, you're done with your first revision. Read and read some more. Towards the end of your preparation, start solving papers orally, because you may not have time to write them out. I think writing of papers should be done after December, after your prelims in schools are over. But till then, try to solve the papers orally, because it exposes you to different questions which are essential when you're studying S2. I hope you have fun studying Science 2. Science 2 always evokes very strong emotions. Some people love it, some people hate it, but give yourself a chance. Be open to studying Science 2. Be open to studying biology. 10th standard biology is beautifully written, and I think an essential addition to your knowledge. So I hope you study that well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm sure every student who is watching this video will definitely study science in an effective manner and ace the board exams. If you like this video, do let us know in the comment section below. If you want to see more videos from this series, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you find this video beneficial for yourself, do share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to check out the interview series called Unwrapped, which is also out on our YouTube channel. If you want to contact Anagha ma'am, her contact details are given in the description box below. If you want to contact us, our contact details are also given in the description box below. Thank you.